needs the recording later, they can watch back the playback as well. So good morning. The weekly review, it's one of my favorite processes. This is one in a series of our Ninja Skill Boosters that you can find on our YouTube channel. If you need to find that, just look at our website and you'll see a little YouTube icon at the top of the screen, and you'll be able to look at all the other Ninja Skill Booster sessions that we've been doing recently. The weekly review is a cool session. And if you need more information afterwards, please feel free to take a screenshot of this. This is my details. Would love to keep connected with you. I know quite a few of you already. Lots of familiar faces this morning, which is wonderful. But please keep in touch with us. The other thing I would mention is our Facebook and our Instagram pages. We do lots of little tips and ideas and techniques through the month just to keep you on track and just keep making sure that you're checking in with yourself. So feel free to join us on Facebook or on Instagram. So as for all of our sessions are based around lots of great resources that are in this book, How to Be a Productivity Ninja. This was written by Graham around about, I think, 12 years ago now, maybe even 13. Time does seem to be flying. And Graham wrote a heap of really cool processes from his research into productivity and understanding how to get stuff done in a way that is not kind of just trying to cram more in, but about how we achieve more when we worry less, and how we can balance our well-being and our productivity to get the stuff done that we love. So I'm going to share the process with you today. I love it because it helps me to stay focused on my goals. It helps me to make sure that I've reviewed the week that's been. I understand where my successes and wins are and what I want to change up for next week, and helps me to stay on track. So it's a really great way of moving forward. Now, Kate has just raised her hand. Kate, I'll ask you to unmute. Is there a question? Just before we go any further. Hi, Kate. Please feel free, Kate, if you need to ask a question, just to unmute yourself. Otherwise, I shall keep going. I did want to mention this is a model which is featured in the book, and it's part of our full day How to Be a Productivity Ninja workshop, and it's called the Cord model. It's a really great productivity model that Graham kind of created based on a whole range of different resources and tools. And the Cord model is about kind of structuring the way we approach our productivity. It's a bigger topic, so I won't cover it all in detail today, but just to give you an overview of this, we start with a collection process. We gather all of the things around us, and this helps us we actually use this to set up our second brain as well, but it's about making sure we understand that there's a process of collecting information, collecting things around us that we need to work on. The second part of this process is to organize that into a way that we can then work with it. The review phase is where we actually start to review and prioritize and pick the right things to do. And then, of course, the D is the doing. It's the actual getting stuff done. So our philosophies as productivity ninjas are really focused around this process. And if you can instill this kind of philosophy and flow into your day, you'll find that it's much easier to get stuff done and to be really clear on what your priorities and objectives are. So today we're focusing on the review section. This is the section, I love it the best. It's the weekly review section. There are other review processes that we do during the week, as well as if you are, if you're a student, you might be doing term reviews, you might be doing an annual review in business, you might do a financial year review. There are many types of reviews. This one is focused specifically on the weekly review and on your productivity and your well-being. It is a crucial productivity ninja habit. I would really encourage you to set aside time to do this review. It's about concentrated thinking. If you've been to our previous sessions, you would have heard us talking a lot about boss thinking and worker mode. So the idea of doing the boss mode stuff, which is the really deep planning and organizing, ready to get stuff done. And then the worker mode, which is when we go off and do things. Yeah. So this is your time to set aside for really deep boss mode thinking. Ideally, you want to set aside 1 to 2 hours. We'll talk a little bit more towards the end of this session on when to plan your weekly review. For me, I love doing it first thing on a Friday morning. It's the time I set aside usually to do this. It's quite a time usually, and it's a time when I know I've still got good energy. If I leave it to Friday afternoon, invariably I'm too tired. I just think the end of the week is not a great place to do it, right at the very end of the day. It may work for you. If you're an afternoon person, you've got lots of energy on a Friday afternoon, then go for your life. But we'll think about that at the end of the session. When am I going to plan to do this? 1 to 2 hours is great. The first time around might take you longer, but at least set yourself aside a big chunk of time to do it. And the goal is that it helps us to stay in control and stay ahead of the game so that we know that we're getting ready. And key ninjas in this, you know we love our 9 ninjas, but the key ninjas we're focusing on here are Zen, Light, Calm. It helps us to feel a sense of being in control, as well as other ninja productivity characters like our Preparedness Ninja. Preparedness Ninja is a key one for us in this section. The other thing that I love about the weekly review is that it gives us more agility. It gives us the ability to flex. You might remember this if you've seen our sessions before. You know, the idea of when we're focused so much in the short term, we don't see the hurricane coming. You know, there's no point raking the leaves when the hurricane or the tornado is there. Yeah, we need to keep our eye on the long and the short term game. And this is what the weekly review helps us to do. It helps us to keep the bigger picture in mind whilst we're focusing on what we're actually going to get done. So the other part of this is really important that we think about the second brain. We're going to work with that this morning. If you have a second brain, this is your place where you store everything. It's your diary, it's your calendar, it's your filing system, it's your good idea park. It's all of the components that help you to stay organized and stop you having to just hold everything in your head. Okay, we talk a lot about brain physiology in our sessions. It's really important to understand that our brain is not designed for holding stuff as a filing system. It is designed as a problem-solving device. Okay, so the more we can get out of our head into our second brain, the more we can get organized, the more we get done, the clearer we can think, and that creates this feeling of Zen, Light, Calm. So during this session, I'm going to ask you to work with your second brain, whatever that constitutes for you right now, and think about where are things up to? Am I on track? What comes next? Yeah, this is the process that we're going to go through. And we're going to do this by batching our thinking together. Yeah, because this helps us. So when we do really focused boss thinking, when we do our organizing in one place, it helps us to then have everything in order and we can move on to do other stuff, and it reduces our stress, which is really important. When we work with our second brain a lot, when we really work with it and make sure it's flowing, we can trust it. And that enhances our ability to have great memory, to work with our own intelligence and our own intuition as well. So it's a really great place to be. If you haven't set up your second brain yet, it's a big process as well. It's part of what we do on our full day workshop, and we can talk about that another time. But today I'm going to get you to work with whatever you have which constitutes your second brain right now. The weekly checklist I mentioned is in the chat box for you, if you can download it. I'm just reposting that link to our website so that you can download it directly from our resources page. There are some other cool little bits in there too, so don't forget to check those out and download those too. But for today, I'm going to take you through this weekly checklist in a little bit of detail. We have a few minutes to do this, so I'm going to take you through step by step, and I'm going to get you to do this little process with me. And then after I finish the kind of theory bit, we're going to get into the doing. So I'm going to get you to have a go at this process. I did want to pause just for 1 second, and I would love in the chat box, how many do we have with us now? We have a lovely group of people here in the group now. Is in the chat box, I would love you to start your weekly review. And this is a really great way to do it, is to start your weekly review thinking about what wins can you celebrate this week? Do you have any wins that come to mind? I'd love to know in the chat box, just one win. What win did you have this week? And I know it's really hard during COVID and all the craziness that's going on. It's really hard to often focus on the wins. So I'm just going to get you to think deeply just for a minute and pop a win in the chat box. A new exciting proposal gathering. Awesome. And Michelle, you're online too. You got your inbox to 0. Fantastic. You did so well. Michelle was actually in the wonderful session I mentioned last week where the earthquake hit. So Michelle's in New Zealand, but she understood what was happening when half the people ran out of the room. Wendy, getting 6 memos up on time and without mistakes. Fantastic. Well done, Wendy. Samantha, caught up on marketing assessments. Fantastic. Awesome. Isn't it a great feeling when we just think about what wins we can have? Molly got in the office for the first time, sorted out some much needed paperwork. Fantastic. Well, you're in a great position for your weekly review today. Alicia completed a task that you've been procrastinating on. Good job. Finalized a major project, Lisa. Wonderful. Lilia, being able to contact all students. Wonderful. I know you're down in southern New South Wales, down near Tumut, working as part of TAFE. So awesome job, Lilia. Anyone else? Anyone else? What are we celebrating? Focusing on a major project, Jane. Wonderful. Awesome. I'm just going to wait for a couple more celebrations. And guys, really celebrate these things. It makes us feel awesome. Stuart, got a business migrated over to a new system. Wow, that's a big one. Big project win. Good kudos to you. Fantastic. It's so important as part of the weekly review to think about this, to think about what we can do to celebrate. I'm going to take you through that in a bit more detail in the steps, but I just wanted to start with this because when we bring our energy to the positive, when we think about the good stuff that we've achieved, it can really set us up for more success next week. Okay. Bonnie got through a lot of admin that had been put aside. Oh, that's one of those frog kind of tasks, isn't it? Things we don't really like to do, but we know we need to. Good job. Awesome. Okay, let's get into the weekly review. This is a 5-stage process. And if you practice this, I promise you, it's going to give you huge boosts in your productivity because we get back to 0. This is the first stage, getting all the inputs back to 0. We start by looking at our notebooks, the things around us. I've got a few things I've pulled together on my desk today, and I'll share with you. I use a weekly review. I use a weekly planner. It's part of, I love paper as well as the electronic stuff, but I love my planner because I get to do my weekly review and look at things like what good ideas did I have this week? If I scribbled notes down and I need to make sure I capture those, are my inboxes at 0? I manage 3 inboxes, so it's really important that they are under control. Have I got voicemails, Slack messages, any LinkedIn, any follow-ups that I need to do? So I look at all of those things in this first stage of my weekly review. I look at whether I've captured all the actions in my notebook. Have I actually got everything done that I needed to do? Okay, so we go through all of this, getting back to 0. If you have filing to do, if you have other things here, this is where we kind of look at all of this stuff. You'll see these notes in each section on the checklist that I've given you, so please feel free to download that and use this. It's really important that we understand what it is we've got in our second brain. So this is your kind of part of your capture exercise, as well as we're pulling everything together, getting everything ready. In stage 2, we look back, okay? And we're still doing a bit of this gathering. We're still doing a bit of this. We're gathering stuff like maybe I know we're not traveling that much now, but maybe we might have receipts in our bag or things that we've had to do, even if we've had to go to Officeworks to get stuff during the week for at home. I know I've had to do that a couple of times. But we look at our paperwork. We look at maybe there's physical mail or things in our wallet, our receipts, things that we need to process and do. So we look back and make sure we understand what's happened in the week. Have I captured everything? We go through also in this stage last week's calendar, and we look at whether there are any actions or follow-ups. So this week, for instance, for me, I've had 3 workshops. I've attended a workshop which had some great insights in that I want to capture some notes on. I had some other meetings with clients that I need to make sure I've captured those notes in our system for the next steps. And some other cool stuff like I've gone out for some walks with friends, and were there follow-ups from that even too, and I mean by follow-ups here, it sounds a bit funny, but things like, did we arrange another catch-up so that we can keep connected, that kind of stuff, which is so important right now. Also think about, in the meetings that you were in or the workshops you're in, were there any other notes or actions, things that you promised people that you would do? Think about whether you've documented that. So we look back, we review the week that's been. And the other thing in here, which we will talk about in stage 5 a little bit, but the celebration stuff. What are the wins? What are the successes? On my weekly review, my little weekly planner, it actually has a section for wins and successes, which prompts me to think about that. So looking back, what was the week like? Was it as I expected? Was my energy good? Did I work well in this week? In stage 3, this is where we get our second brain up to date. So we go through our second brain and we look at the lists of things we have to do. We look at our projects and we look at whether we've got everything up to date. We look at whether we have any actions or next steps that we need to plan for, any follow-ups. And we also look at whether we have, if you have a waiting for list, so if you have stuff that you've delegated to others, we look at, have those things been done? Have those projects progressed? If you're a project management person, this is a really important phase for you. We also go through, if you've done your inbox to zero, and I know some of you have, and you have your email structured in this way, we go through our at waiting and our at action folders, and we process those things now in our weekly review so that we know that we followed up if we're waiting on stuff from people that needs to happen. And we go through and we action some of the work that may need to be done in the emails if we haven't kept up with that during the week. We process, when we look at our inbox to zero, we talk about processing regularly. So it's not good to leave that just till the end of the week, but it might be a good opportunity just to review that folder in your weekly review and make sure you're up to date. It's also really important in this phase to go through project lists, add any actions that you know are the next steps in your projects to your master action list so that you can see kind of what your sphere of influence is going to be. What are the things you need to be working on next week? Okay, so we do that in stage 3. We also can think here, what helps us is this idea of big rocks. And we're starting to get to the pointy end. So we're starting to organize now. We're starting to organize the thinking, bringing us to that second stage of the process. And we're starting to think about, what are the big rocks that are here? What did I work on this week that were in the big rocks? And what am I going to be doing next week? We're starting to transition to the thinking ahead stuff now. And the big rocks, if you guys haven't heard this analogy before, is really cool. If you think about your capacity, the amount of time and energy that you have for work next week is like a bucket, yeah, like this little red bucket here. And you can either fill it up with big rocks, the big chunky stuff that you really want to get into, or you can fill it up with sand and pebbles. You'll get a lot more in, but there's lots of little bitty bits there, and it's not going to be necessarily the big things that you want to be working on. The other thing to be aware of is that if you aren't really well planned for your week ahead, that often before you can put your big rocks in that bucket, other people will start throwing in pebbles and sand. So it's really important to be really clear on what our priorities are. So thinking big rocks can really help with that. So excuse me 1 second, I'm just going to clear my throat. Apologies for that. It feels better. So stage 4, this is our looking forward phase. So we've reflected, we've looked back, we've looked at what's been great, how we've gone, what are the things we need to now process and work on, and now we're going to look forward. So we look through our projects and we look at what are going to be our priorities for next week. Which are the big projects I need to focus on, the big rocks, and maybe there's some smaller pebbles in there too that you need to do, but we want to make sure we're doing the stuff that makes a difference. Remember the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. 20% of the things that we do will give us 80% of our results. So it's really important to pick the right things. Also think about, what preparation do we have for the week that's coming, any upcoming meetings or workshops or things that we're doing. So for me, obviously we've got public holiday Monday, but I've got a busy week of workshops again that I need to get ready for. So this is a great opportunity to make sure I've done my prep work, to get my things like my resources, handouts, those kind of things ready. We do face-to-face, which is looking more likely coming up soon rather than everything being virtual. But we get ready. We make sure we've got everything ready to start the day or start the week next week. We also think about at this stage, is there anyone I need to talk to next week? Is there anyone that I need to contact that is going to help me with the projects and plans? Or is it that I'm struggling with something? I might have a need for help on a certain project. I need to tee up time with that person. So again, this weekly review is a great time to think ahead. It also means you're more likely to get their time because you've asked them in advance rather than just picking up the phone and going, hey, have you got 5 minutes? So it's a really great way to make sure we're really planned. And I have left this on there, the travel plans and tickets, etc., because we will eventually get to this place, hopefully, where we're doing stuff. But even if it's online virtual tickets and things like that, if you know you've got something coming up this week, that you've got your prep work done. So it's a great way to get ready. Now, stage 5, also, I won't talk about this one. I'm going to go straight to stage 5. I don't think we need that one. We've already kind of covered it. Well prepared for the next term on. Yes, absolutely. So this really helps with that getting well prepared for when we go back into the classroom, whether it's virtually or in person. This can really help you set up each week and each term. You could even do a special term review. So stage 5 is our questions phase, and this one is really important. This is probably the most important phase, I think, in terms of setting up for our week ahead. We think about, when will my energy, that should say what, my, not me, will my energy and attention be the best this week for coming? And plan accordingly. If you know that, we've got a long weekend, Tuesday morning, I'm going to feel so refreshed and I'm going to be off and running, I'm going to have bags of energy at the beginning of the week, then plan for that. Plan to tackle some of your big tasks, the big meaty stuff. If you know, however, that, you've got certain ways of working that you love best, I'm a really early bird person, I know my mornings are my most productive time, then plan for that. I'm going to plan, I work from sometimes, 6 or 7 in the morning, right through till say 1 o'clock or 12 o'clock, and I've done my day. And then I've got my afternoons to do things that don't require such brain power. Yeah, it's a really great way to think about, how do I structure my week? Also think about, in this phase, what can I be ruthless about? If I've picked my priorities and I know which projects I want to work on, yeah, I've got other stuff filling up my time next week, other meetings that really don't add value. Can you renegotiate those commitments? Can you change it up a bit? Can you find ways to free up your time so that you can focus on the big stuff? Also think about, are you feeling resistant towards certain tasks? And how might you overcome that? And resistance, sometimes we call that procrastination as well. We talked about this one a lot yesterday on our Study Ninja. In the Study Ninja book that Graham wrote, we talk about DUST, D-U-S-T. And this is about identifying why we're procrastinating or why we're feeling resistance. Is it that something's difficult? Is it undefined? Is it scary? Or is it tedious? That's the little DUST acronym. If we understand why the resistance is there, we can figure out ways to overcome it. So really think deeply on this. These questions are very important in your weekly review. And this is the kind of celebration stuff I wanted you to focus on. What have been the bright spots and maybe the dark spots of the past week? And what have I learned from that? Yeah, what we want more of the bright spots, obviously, and celebrating those, rewiring our negatively biased brain. We all have one, unfortunately. Rewiring it to think about the positives really can help boost our productivity and our sense of well-being into the next week, because we want more of that. So we need to celebrate it. Identifying the dark spots is key too, because we can then look into, quite factually, why did that happen? Why didn't that work? Or what was the issue there? Why did that feel not quite right? And how do I make sure that doesn't happen again? So we learn. Yeah, we're growing and learning as we go. The last question, to my mind, is the most important question. I'm really passionate about this one. Am I finding time for the people and the things I love outside of work? And right now during COVID, this is critical to manage your stress, to manage your anxiety levels, to feel more productive, to feel good. We need to be able to do the things we love. And that could be just getting out in the garden. It could be going for a walk. For me, you saw my photo up front. I'm a scuba diver and underwater photographer. That's my passion. And that helps me to really reset and just come back to zero. I feel so amazing once I've done that. So this weekend, all of my time is taken up with thinking and doing diving, and photography. If you haven't planned for the things you love, if you haven't made time for it, your weekly review is the time to do that. put it in your diary now. I'd love for today, in the chat box actually, I'd love to know, put in the chat box, what are you planning for next week or even this weekend that you love to do? And Sam, yes, I'll do the DUST acronym again. I'm just going to pop it. Undefined. It's difficult, undefined, scary, and tedious. So they're the 4 things. Get outside, Misha. Yeah. So yeah, please, guys, make sure you're planning time, even if it's, if for us for a while there, we couldn't scuba dive because of some of the lockdown restrictions. But I found ways to think about diving, watching YouTube videos, looking through all my old photos, doing photo editing so that I had some connection to the things I'm passionate about. So think about creatively, if you can't do the things that you love, like going on travel, think about travel, plan some holidays, think about the joy that you're going to get when you get back to that. Gavin, whole lot of nothing. Yes, you just moved house. Wonderful. So reconnecting with the family and reading. Wonderful. Jane, walking, riding, family games night, Sam. Love that. Bushwalk and time with family. Yeah. And do really, don't underestimate, guys, the importance of this. It is so critical for us to spend time doing the things we love. Yeah, because it resets our brain. It gives us energy. It means that we're excited about the week ahead. Yeah, it's not about an either or. This is a boost to your productivity as much to your well-being. So it's really worth doing. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Now, once you've done your weekly review process, here are a few tips on making it stick. It's really much easier if you can do it with someone else. So if you can, even if you're doing it virtually, if you have a work buddy, somebody that you can do it with, you can even set up a Zoom call or a quick chat, even on FaceTime, and just have someone there with you. Yeah, it makes so much stick together. An accountability buddy too, someone that can hold you accountable, yeah, to keep you on track, to make sure you do it. Yeah, did you do your weekly review last week? How was it? What did you celebrate? What did you learn? That kind of stuff can really help you stay on track. Also remember, there is loads of resources for you on the Productivity Ninja Academy that will help you to stay on track. I will make sure you'll get a follow-up email, probably be on Tuesday next week, given it's a long weekend, which will have a link for you to the Academy. If you would like to join the Academy, please get in touch. Oh, just use that link and you'll be able to get in there. Lisa, bushwalking sounds gorgeous. So making sure that you do this regularly, plan time into your diary to make it happen. Really encourage you to do that. And this quote from Graham, we use it a lot in our workshops. It's so important. Productivity is not just about getting stuff done. It's not about doing more. It's about making space for what matters. And I want you to really think on that one. Yeah, it's about making space for what matters, because yes, we all have to do work to earn money, but it's not everything. It shouldn't be the only thing that we focus on. Yeah, so it's about getting some balance there in your life. Okay. Now, I'm going to get you guys just to think very quickly on this. I realize we only have 1 minute left until we finish at 9:30, but I am going to stay on after so you guys can ask questions. But this is really important to think about. When am I going to do my weekly review? And I'm going to get you guys to pop it in the chat box if you can. When would you think it would work best for you? As I mentioned, I love Friday mornings. That's the time that works best for me. You can sometimes, some people like Monday morning to start the week off well. However, sometimes your Monday mornings can get hijacked. So it can be something that you kind of sideline for other things. So really think about when's going to work best for you. I love doing it so much on a Friday morning that I do plan time in. But also what I do find sometimes is that Sunday afternoon is a really nice time for me to sit down and do it if I haven't had time on a Friday, if I've got workshops running, etc. And I love to do that because I enjoy the process. You may not want to do it on your weekend. Okay, but think about when sits best for you, what feels good. When you enjoy this process, you don't mind doing it at the weekend, but it's great if you can do it on a Friday so that you can bookend the end of your week and then you can relax and enjoy your weekend. Think about doing it also. Awesome job, Jane. Yeah, possibly Friday morning. Yes, Lilia. Awesome, wonderful Friday morning. When is your attention at its best? When do you have the most energy to do it? So planning around that is also important. Now, location is also critical. Do you have the space? If you have an office or your own space at home to do it, that's great. You want to pick somewhere where you've got less distractions. And at home, that can be difficult if you're sharing space with others. But what you can do is, even I've done this before, before I had my little office, I was working in the kitchen with 2 teenagers here at uni, is put your headphones on, put your music on, get into the groove, maybe even have a bit of a boogie while you're doing it. So you can be doing your filing and looking through things and organizing as you go. Think about your resources, what you have available to you, the checklists, what other tools and documents you might need. Also go offline. Think about how you can make sure that you protect your attention and that you get stuff done in this session. And if you do want some accountability help, then sing out to somebody that can keep you on track. Okay, I'm a little bit over. I get so excited with this stuff. I just wanted to mention that if you are interested, we have a couple of spots left on our 6 Weeks to Ninja program that starts next Wednesday. You can find details on the website on that. I'll post that link for you in a second. We do cover more of setting up your second brain on this session and loads of other resources and productivity tools. I know Michelle's joined already. So if you'd like to know more, please get in touch. It's a great way to supercharge your productivity. And of course, we run lots of other workshops, which you might like to find out about for your teams. I'm just going to leave my details up there, and I'm going to say thank you so much for joining me. If you need to go, please feel free to head off now. But I'm going to stay here for questions. I'm actually going to do some of my weekly review whilst I'm standing here. So if anybody, thank you, Lilia, if you would like to do it with me, please feel free to stay. I might mute myself and put some music on so I can get cracking, but I'm here to answer questions, so feel free to unmute yourself as well. Thanks, Chris, you're online too. End of your holidays, I think you're coming up to, Chris, so look forward to chatting when you're back. Okay, that is me. I am going to stop the recording. I'm just going to do that right now. Stop the recording. There we